call the meeting to order. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the board in preparation of the 2023 annual meeting notice, which sets forth the date, time, and place of this meeting, and by properly posting such notice and forwarding the notice to those designated newspapers and persons requesting meeting notices. Please be advised, this is a non-smoking building. Fire exits are to my right and your left and the back of the room. This is a scheduled meeting of the planning board. There may be other meetings currently running simultaneously with this meeting. If you are not here for the Summit Planning Board, your meeting may be upstairs or elsewhere in the building. We should go to our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so, Steve, we have an oath of office we want to administer tonight.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman, my privilege. I'd ask Councilman Miniger, board members Hillebrand, Anderson, McNeil, Bell, and Stern, if you would kindly rise and raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I,
Andy Anderson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear
and that I will bear
true faith and allegiance to same
true faith and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
And I do solemnly swear
And I do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly
Impartially and justly
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of planning board member
of planning board member
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome and welcome back.
Well, thank you very much. All right. Thanks, Steve, I appreciate that very much. So, as we said earlier, we have a few new members on the board. Councilmember Miniger, welcome very much.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you.
I always put people on the spot and ask them to tell new members, tell them a little bit about yourself, and it'd be nice if you just give us an idea, about yourself, your family, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm originally from Indiana. My wife and I moved here, I would say 2016. We've been in Summit for about we've been in Summit for about, do the math, 7 years. I joined Common Council in 2021. Really looking forward to participating in this.
Thanks, and Andy's the mayor's representative in this format. The mayor can choose to sit on the board if she wishes, in this case, or have a representative. In the past, we've had a representative from Common Council, which has actually been very, very helpful to us. So Andy, thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Next is Chris Hillebrand. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. Chris Hillebrand. I've been living in Summit since 2017 and on and off in New Jersey over the past 20 years. My wife of 27 years and my 4 children live with us, minus one who's away at university. Looking forward to serving here and have a long career history working across telecom, across companies like Verizon, T-Mobile, Ericsson, and Samsung. So looking forward to serving and doing what I can.
Chris, welcome aboard. Chris has a very interesting background in the sense that for the applicant's interest tonight, Chris has been an applicant in many cases trying to put cell phone towers where not everybody wants to have cell phone towers. So he's got a tremendous background kind of being on both sides of this situation, which I really welcome that perspective, Chris. So thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Of course, we know who Bill is. We know Ellen we know. Rick got to introduce himself about a meeting or two ago. But Paul, I know if I ever gave you this opportunity. I think you snuck on the board, my recollection, without having to tell us a little bit about yourself. Could you do that?
Sure. Thanks, Bill. So I've actually been on the board now. This is the second year. But I moved to Summit in 2017. Have a almost 8-year-old girl at Washington. I've been in the real estate industry going back to 2000. I work for a pension fund advisor doing commercial real estate lending. So I've been in and around real estate almost the entirety of my life. My dad was in real estate. So just happy to be able to help and support and give back, and looking forward to another good year.
Thanks, Paul. Well, I'll have to say we have a terrific board, and I want to brag on you all a little bit, but we have a tremendous amount of background and knowledge on this board, which helps us do what I think is a good job for the citizens. So I've often said that you can walk down the street in Summit, and in about 10 minutes, if you had a question, you could pick someone out in the middle of downtown, and they're probably an expert on it. So the talent that's in this town is remarkable. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate it very much. So I guess we need to do a roll call, Stephanie.
Sure. Chairman Anderson,
Present.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Here.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Here.
Ms. McNeil,
Here.
Mr. Delory,
Here.
Councilmember Miniger,
Here.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Here.
Mr. Formicelli,
Here.
Mr. Stern,
Here.
Mr. Bell,
Here.
Mr. Hillebrand.
Here.
You have a quorum, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Well, as we all know, this meeting happens every January. It's a reorganization meeting where we look at officers on the planning board as well as our professional appointments and then our various committees. So it's one of those things that I find somewhat awkward and somewhat odd in some ways, but I guess we'll have to start and ask for if there is any nomination for the chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a nomination. This evening, I'd like to nominate Bill Anderson to continue to serve as the chairman of the Planning Board. And I just want to say that Bill has been a source of steady, compassionate, capable, and effective leadership for this panel through some very difficult and challenging cases. I think we can all appreciate that not only is he a friend to everyone who needs a friend on this board, but he makes sure that I think what every chairman should do is, or every chairperson should do, is to make sure that every interested party does get their say and does feel that there can be a part of the process. And I think Bill is exceptional at that, and I think we are lucky to have him, and I nominate him to continue as our chair.
Thanks.
Can we-
Yeah, go ahead.
Can we get a motion?
Second. Do we have any other nominations from the floor for chair? No one wants to volunteer, huh? Okay. All right, Stephanie, I guess we'll take the next step. then.
Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate it. It's been my pleasure. Now I'd like to return the favor, John, and nominate John Zucker as vice chair. John has done a spectacular job, in my opinion. He's an attorney by training and has a broad practice and broad skill set. And what he brings to the board is a depth of knowledge that is very, very helpful to the board members. And I appreciate you, guiding us as you have on some of the cases and pointing out where we have some leeway to work and some leeway maybe not to work. And just to really appreciate the depth of knowledge and skill that you bring to the board and the calmness of your personality. It's very helpful. So I would like to nominate John as the vice chair.
Can we have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Do we have any other
Yeah, anybody else?
any other nominations coming from the board for vice chair? Hearing none, I guess we'll go to a vote.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you, John. And then for secretary, I'd like to nominate Stephanie. Stephanie has really relatively new to the job in a sense, but has really done a terrific job kind of organizing us. And so we'd like to approach you again for another year. We appreciate the hard work that you put in so far, keeping us on the straight and narrow and not letting us run astray. And so I'd like to nominate Stephanie for another year on the board. And can we have a motion for that?
So moved.
Any other nominations? I guess in this case, Matthew, it's kind of interesting when we have a secretary appointed by the city that we probably have no option but to vote in this case. But the good news
is open if anybody's
if anybody wants the job. The good news is the most qualified person is in that slot now.
Exactly.
So we're very happy to have it. So we can go ahead and do the honor and call
Sure.
for a vote, or maybe I should do that. I don't know, but you go ahead.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
All right, very good. Thanks, Stephanie. Appreciate your help. All right, so moving on in the agenda for the next step with appointment of professionals. We have 3 appointments, our board attorney, board planner, and board engineer. Our board attorney, of course, is Steve Warner with the firm of Saville, Schalk, Corsini, and Warner. And there are several other names beyond that, but the most important one is Warner. And so he's done a
I might
terrific-
second that.
Yeah, that's right. He's done a terrific job. I've had no one come to my home to put handcuffs on me and lead me away, so that's very much appreciate that, Steve. But your advice, counsel and guidance during the last year has been nothing short of superb. And so we would really like to appoint Saville, Schalk, Corsini, and Warner as our board attorney for the coming year. And do I need a second, I guess, on that, or a motion, I should say?
A motion second, and since these are all resolutions, it'd be a roll call vote.
Yep, okay, thank you.
So moved.
Yep. And a second?
Second.
Okay, great, thank you.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry,
Go.
Steph, if we can have a roll call vote
Oh,
on the
you want a roll call
resolutions.
vote?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay,
Well, all the resolutions.
sure. Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez?
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, very good, thanks. And
Thank
you could see the guidance that we get right here. Just as we are ready to go have a vote, we may have strayed off to the dark side and voted as a group, but Steve said, no, it's a resolution, you have to vote, a roll call vote. So just an example of the way he keeps us board on track. Thanks, Steve. All right, so next in line is our board planner, Burgess Associates. And Joe, I don't know what to say other than we just love having you here. And your experience is, basically, there's no one in the field that has more or in-depth experience than Joe Burgess. And he has a great firm. He's kept us well-informed and well advised over the course of several years at least, and certainly last year when we had some very challenging cases. I won't name them in particular, but we all know what they are, or which one they were. And so it got a little testy at times, and so we thank you for your guidance and patience and just keeping us in the straight and narrow. So I'd like to have a motion to approve Burgess and Associates as our board planner.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All right, and we'll do a roll call vote.
Sure. Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
And, yeah, thank you, Joe. Last but not least, Collier's Engineering and Design. Dipty Schiff is here tonight, and Collier's had a previous life in a different firm, and Collier's put their arm around the I'd have to say local or regional firm, and now they're a national firm. But the folks that have been working with Collier's made that transition from the last firm to the new firm, and the transition was seamless, and we get excellent advice, and the knowledge they have of Summit is really hard to replace. It's really excellent that we have that knowledge. And so Dipty is just a little bit on the new side here in terms of being in the meetings here by herself. She'd come with others, and Dipty, we know who is doing the work. so we're glad to have you here. So anyway, I'd like to have a motion to approve Collier's Engineering and Design as our board engineer.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and a roll call vote.
Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. So, yep, thank you, Deputy.
Thank you.
Yep. And, so we have committee appointments. I don't know that we need a vote on these appointments. It's just a statement of.
Those are pleasure of the chair.
Yeah, I think we can forego the vote. We have volunteers for each of these positions. They've been chained to their desks so they can't run out. So Environmental Commission, Rick Bell, been on that commission for a long time, so Rick, thank you for doing that. Yeah, is that right? Well, okay. Affordable Housing is Matthew Delory. He's been on that for a long time. Done a great job. Parkline, Jay Brinkerhoff, who also has been with this project for quite a period of time. And the Parkline is really a wonderful thing, Jay, so thank you for all the time and energy you've put into that. I know it's been not a straight path, but appreciate it very much. Shade Tree, Paul Formicelli is going to take that on for a little while, see how that goes. So Paul, thank you very much for doing that. And the last one is Historic Preservation, which Jennifer really didn't want to do this, but I talked her into it. So,
Twisted her arm
Jennifer,
again.
thank you very much. Jennifer is obviously on the Historic
embraced it.
Preservation Commission. Thank you.
And
So.
this- I do it all week, so.
That's right. She understands the business very well, master's degree in historic preservation from Columbia. So Jennifer, could you give us a little bit of an update on kind of where the Historic Preservation Commission is with the
Sure.
with the plan?
Historic preservation is an advisory arm, as you know, and we have a proposed new ordinance that gives it a little more oomph. And in December, late November or December, we sent our ordinance up to City Council. Marjorie Fox asked for us to send it up, and we did, and the City Council is going to take a look at it this year.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
How old is the original ordinance? About 15 years?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
I
been a while.
don't know that. It's been a long time that historic preservation's been around and this draft has been around for a very long time for this new ordinance that would update the existing.
Thanks for working on that. It's now off to Andy and your team on the council, and I know you're looking at that. So we look forward to hearing your thoughts on it as well, on the council's thoughts.
Thank you.
So, all right, so we have resolution adoption, two of them. One, we are required to adopt the official newspaper, I guess, ad and format in the newspaper itself, that we choose to do that. Is that right? And so is there something maybe you could give us just a little update on that, Stephanie or Matthew, in terms of the selection we've made and why, so to speak?
Well,
Same as
I mean,
we always had?
Yeah, the obligation for the applicant to notify residents through advertisement is a requirement of the NRUL.
Right.
And so municipalities, even common council selects a paper at the beginning of the year to let the citizenry and those know that that's where they should be looking if they intend to review the publication.
Do we know what paper that is at this point?
We use the Union County Local Source and the Star Ledger.
Yeah, okay. All right, good to know, thanks. Then we have the adoption of the rules and regulations for '23. When Steve came on the board a number of years ago, one of the first things he mentioned to me is that our rules and regulations were slightly out of date. And so Steve tackled that project and done a great job. And Steve, I don't want to embarrass my predecessors, but can you remember when that last set of rules and regulations were passed?
I think 2021, and we have utilized them since, and I don't believe we need to make any changes. There were no MLUL changes that required, in my opinion, changes to our bylaws, but the board is free to review, comment, and adopt as is or make suggestions.
Well, I was actually referring to one that was done so long ago that it looked like it was done with carbon.
Oh, the original one, I'm sorry.
I don't know if you
Yeah, that was-
recognize that type, whatever it was,
That's a-
from old-fashioned typewriters. years, but
I
looked
think
like-
it had 10 provisions they were referred to as commandments, if I recall correctly.
That's right.
It started thou shalt, and shalt not.
It was stone tablets, yeah, they were old. Anyway, but now they're updated, and thanks, Steve, for doing that.
my pleasure.
Does anyone on the board have any comments, thoughts, ideas with regard to the rules that Stephanie sent out in our package? Any thoughts, ideas? And Steve, do we need a voice vote to resolve?
I would, since it's required by the MLUL that we adopt or re-adopt each year, I would ask we do so as
Do
a
a roll call vote?
resolution, roll call vote.
Do we
Motion
need
second.
to do a motion for that?
Motion second and roll call vote, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. So can we have a motion to adopt the rules and regulations for 2023?
So moved.
Thank you, Ellen. And a second? Second. Thanks, Jay. Let's go to a voice vote. Stephanie, thank you.
Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. All right.
And the adoption of it. And we'll resolve to adopt the paper by resolution.
Yes, I guess it's sort of followed, will we?
Yeah.
Is that, we got a
I would do a
resolution?
motion to adopt those
Yeah.
papers as the official papers of the board.
Okay, and that,
Oh, I'll move that.
all right.
While I'm saying,
Why-
I
yeah, why
would
don't you-
move to adopt the two papers named as the official publications. Thank you.
We have a second and a,
Quick roll call if
all right, all right, we'll roll call.
Stephanie
Thanks.
doesn't mind.
All right, thanks. All right,
Chairman Anderson,
yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, so here we are, we have a public hearing tonight on 115 and 117 Oak Ridge Avenue. Minor subdivision that adjusts the common lot line between Lot 115 and 117 on Oak Ridge Avenue to create a conforming building lot. Is the attorney present to present this case, present this application?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, while
Yes. Oh,
council's
sure.
approaching, I did have an opportunity to review the notice.
Oh, thank you.
Found same to be sufficient in content, also timely served and published, certified mail January 3rd and published January 12th, both at least 10 days prior to this evening. Therefore, consistent with municipal land use law, the notice is sufficient for purposes of providing jurisdiction to this board to hear and decide the application, in my opinion.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
Got it.
Yes, so here we are, yep.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Matthew Kapalecchia from the Law Office, Matthew Kapalecchia. I'm representing the applicant 115 Oak Ridge Avenue LLC and 117 Oak Ridge Avenue LLC. The owner is the owner of both properties, 115 Oak Ridge Avenue and 117 Oak Ridge Avenue. For purposes of the application, I'm going to refer to 117 Oak Ridge Avenue as the subject lot. That is block 4606, lot 13, and 115 Oak Ridge Avenue as 46, that's block 4606, lot 12 as lot 12, just for purposes of the application. Both properties are in the R15 zone. What the applicant is proposing is to adjust the common lot line between both 115 and 117 to comply with the, to create a conforming building lot in the subject lot. The subject lot presently is 14,006 square feet. The space requirements for R15 zone is 15,509 square feet. The lot presently is non-conforming in width as well as in lot size. The present lot width for the subject lot is 77.08 feet. The lot required minimum width is 101.23 feet. What the applicant is proposing is to adjust the common lot line to increase the subject lot by approximately 5,342 feet, which would give a proposed increase of square footage of 19,348 square feet. That is also going to increase the lot width by approximately 185 feet, so that would give a estimated final width of 182 feet. So accordingly, should the application be approved, the property would then be a conforming building lot within the confines of the site space regulations of R15. Lot 12 is an existing conforming lot as its present size. So the space that will be taken from Lot 12 would essentially reduce the Lot 12 size, but it would remain a conforming lot once the reduction has taken place, should the application be granted. Presently on the subject lot, there is a non-conforming structure. It's a garage. The applicant is proposing to remove that garage structure. The applicant, should the application be granted, and upon the completion of the construction drawings, would then submit with their construction application the requisite grading, building plans, as well as architectural and landscape plans in conformance with the building code regulations. So that would be done once the applicant is completed with his architectural drawings. As to Lot 12, there are two structures on Lot 12. There is a home structure which is in a significant state of disrepair. The foundation of that home is of a stone foundation. There's some evidence of water infiltration, so the applicant is proposing to remove that structure as well as the existing, there's a shed structure which is not conforming, and that will be also removed. Again, Lot 12 is a conforming building lot as it is, so the applicant would submit construction plans, architectural plans, grading and landscape plans with that at the time to construct a new residence there. To support the application, I have Andrew Clark, who is the engineer and surveyor who had prepared the site drawings, as well as the member of the board, one of the members of the LLCs, who is here to testify should the board be inclined.
All right. You have some witnesses you'd like to present?
I'd like to present Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I could swear in our
Please, yeah.
the witness as well as our board professionals. If all three of you will raise your right hand. Do all of you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
Thank you all. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. And then I guess, and technically, we need to qualify your witness. We have had Andrew appear not more than 30 days ago, actually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I was before this board last month with
Yes.
a not completely dissimilar application, and qualified at the time. If you want me to run
We
through
have
the
a couple of new
qualifications
board
again.
members. Andrew, if you wouldn't mind
Sure.
just going through that.
No problem.
Thanks.
State your full name.
Absolutely. Andrew Clark, C-L-A-R-K-E. And I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor in the state of New Jersey. Both licenses are in good standing. As indicated a moment ago, I last appeared before this board a month ago. I've appeared many times before the Summit Zoning Board, many times before Chatham Planning and Zoning. Also within the last month in front of the Chatham Township Planning Board. I have also been in front of their zoning board and in front of Madison's Planning and Zoning many times.
Okay. Anyone have any questions of this witness's qualifications? Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kopelek, you described the application quite nicely. It is, in fact, a rather simple application as applications go, consisting of an adjustment of this common lot line between lots 12 and 13. The existing lot line comes back and jogs over, so it does a little bit of a zig here, and what we're proposing is a more central lot line that runs straight back, equalizing, not perfectly equal, but better balancing the lot areas and the lot widths and in conformance not only with the zone standards, but also with the neighborhood averaging, which was also accomplished as part of this effort. The dwelling sits towards the front of the street. It actually is much closer to the road than most, if not all, of the surrounding dwellings, except for maybe the one that's immediately to the right, just north of us. And the shed is on that property, and this garage is kind of a barn almost. It's like a barn that was converted to a garage. It's higher than your ordinary garage, and it sits right back against the rear lot line, so it's not in a conforming location. There isn't a lot to describe. That's about it. I'm happy to field questions, but it's again very straightforward. It results in a fully conforming condition with both properties, and as Mr. Kopelecki pointed out, a lot of the commentary that we saw in particularly the engineering report is pertaining more to the construction phase of this project. So if this is approved, we of course would have to submit for grading plans and landscape plans as the forester indicated, as would any application in front of someone.
Mr. Copeland, do you have any other witnesses to present tonight?
I do not, Mr.
Okay, okay. So maybe we have some members of the public here tonight. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Clark's testimony? And I'll just caution you tonight, at this point, we can question his testimony from a factual basis. Members of the public will have time in a few minutes after the questions here. Any questions from the board, and the public can come forward and make any comments they wish to make as relative to the merits and in their opinion. So any questions that the public might have of Mr. Clark's testimony. So hearing none, I guess, would you like to come forward and have a question with Mr. Clark?
There are a couple of people there.
Yeah, I saw.
Are we gonna be able to look at that?
Oh, sure, yeah. Oh, sorry, it's not up here on the board. I'm sorry, yeah.
No problem, I just, I know it's.
happy to share,
Mr. Chairman, can we mark that as Exhibit A1, even though it may be similar to what was submitted in separate surveys and a lot line adjustment plan?
Right, yes. And then, right,
No, it's,
Yeah, Mr. Clark?
yeah,
Are
Mr.
they
Clark,
asking
let's,
questions?
I think they're-
We'd like to
We
hear
need
them
to
too.
hear.
Yeah, everything has to be on the record.
I'm sorry, I simply reiterated what I had just testified to a moment ago, that I indicated on the plan the structures that are being removed, and then reiterated to them that the existing line was the one with the zig in it, and that the other boulder line here was the new line. So I said the same exact thing that I just indicated to you.
so, Mr. Warner, should we have the members of the public come forward with their names and state their
Well,
addresses?
whatever the chair prefers, we could have board members and board professionals ask questions, then the members of the public, or we could start with members of the public. It's up to the chair.
Okay. So, why don't we do that? Did you all get your question answered? Oh. Okay, so why don't you come forward and give us your name and address, and then you can add
Hi,
some
my name is Patricia Ducharme. I live at 104 Oak Ridge, so I am just D-U-C-H-A-R-M-E. And I live diagonally across the street from the construction site. And I just had a concern and just wanted to ask a question of the builder in terms of maintaining public health, safety in the area. There is a significant amount of debris that is still present at the site, consisting of over countless numbers of rubber tires, a large trampoline, garbage left from workers. I walk my dog in front of the zone, in front of the neighborhood, and there's a significant amount of debris.
So a question for Mr.
So my question is, the question is, what is the plan to maintain public health, safety, and cleanup of the site and daily surveillance of the site as you do this construction. Thank you.
You want me to respond?
Sure.
I just would like to let the board know, we had, my client had acquired title to this property.
For the people at home, you need to be at the microphone.
I'm sorry, sorry. By way of a response, my client closed on this property, I think in November of 2022. They have not started any construction on the site as of yet. So all of the existing debris, I would submit, was the prior owners. And of course, upon the issuance of the construction permit, my client would act accordingly and keep the site in compliance with what needs to happen by way of cleanup and ensure that the construction is properly secure.
So at this point, Joe or the board, shall we do board first?
I have a comment about that.
Yeah.
We have a property maintenance code,
Yeah.
and we shouldn't be waiting for some approval. The property should be cleaned up now.
Yeah, and I would recommend that the board, in the event the board approves the application, that a condition of approval as stipulated by the applicant, and I assume the applicant will stipulate, that they will immediately attend to the property and remove all debris and make sure it's consistent with all pending ordinances, including those maintenance, the maintenance code provisions that Mr. Burgess explained. If the
Yes.
chair
No, that's-
so
that's-
desires.
It's a good question, and Matt?
Would the applicant stipulate to that?
Yeah.
I believe,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes?
Okay,
Thank you for
yes,
that,
affirmative.
on the record.
Okay, great, thank you. I was going to ask Matthew, we do have code
I
enforcement.
made a note of that.
Yeah, okay, great, thanks.
And just for members of the public, I would hate for you to come here to do that, but you can, if anyone is aware of anything where there may be property maintenance issues in the city, they can always report a concern, and the city responds within 24 hours typically with a visit to the property, visual inspection, et cetera. So if you're aware of any of that in the city, that should be brought to our attention. So thank you.
So, are there,
Oh, yes.
okay. Yeah, this witness has to be sworn
I'll,
in.
I'll swear you in. Your name and address first is?
Stephen Losacco, 4 Country Club Drive in Chatham, New Jersey.
Please spell your last name.
Losacco, and it's Stephen with a V.
With a V? Okay, please raise your right hand. Do you swear to God or affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you. With the chair's permission, you could proceed.
Yes.
Like Matt had mentioned, we purchased the property and we closed on it in November. And if anybody's familiar with the property, it was years and years and years of neglect, and then the lot was completely overgrown. And so what we've been doing since we acquired the property is we've cleaned out all of the brush, and unfortunately what that did and all the overgrowth, it has exposed everything else that was on the property, which we have begun to clean up. And we did have crews there cleaning stuff up. Unfortunately, the barn or shed or garage or whatever you want to call it in the back is completely loaded to the hilt with debris, as was 115, the house. Actually, when we were purchasing the property, we weren't even allowed to go into 115. It was purchased as is, and you weren't allowed to see the inside of the house. When we closed on the inside of the house, it was, unfortunately, the prior occupant was a bit of a hoarder, and so the structure was basically filled with debris. So we've begun cleaning all of that stuff out. Yes, there's a trampoline, there's all kinds of larger debris that's on the property that we're in the process of removing, and of course will remove timely. And we've also, did a whole full cleanup on the property and removed all of the overgrowth and brush and leaves and everything like that. So we are going to maintain the property, of course, and we'll continue to do so until we have either building plans and, and throughout the whole construction it will be
So
maintained.
let's talk about timely, what's there now. How about 1 week, 2 weeks,
Yeah,
tomorrow?
that's,
Okay.
yeah. We've actually had guys there. We had people there last week because they were trying to go, we had to do an asbestos abatement on the garage and on the house, and in order to do that abatement, we had to take some of that hoarding stuff out. So while the asbestos was abated, and then we basically put everything back into the garage again until we can get, crews there, because we're gonna need more than a dumpster. We're gonna need probably 8 to 10 dumpsters and, some machinery to get all this stuff out of there. So yes, it's something that we have been doing and will continue, and yes, if the board wants to suggest a timeline for us to get it completed, we'll.
If I may.
Sure, Matthew, yes.
To adhere to the code, the code that exists in the book, the best thing to do would be to contact the city tomorrow and speak to code enforcement, and then just work out with them proper time schedule. The city realizes, situations like this, and we do our best to work with someone, and more progress is being made, as long as you're in contact with and there's regular follow-up.
Sure.
The city
Yeah.
would maintain that. So please do contact the Community Services Office in the morning. I'll leave a card with you before I leave.
Okay.
And we'll just get you in touch, and we'll make sure we're on top of it.
Okay, I mean, I'm in the buildings department
Yes.
quite often, so
Okay, yeah.
I'm familiar with it.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, does the board have any questions, Mr. Clark, with regard to his presentation?
I have one. It's obvious that the house is in a state of disrepair, but can you elaborate a little bit on that? I obviously only saw it from the outside. Is it structurally
I have to
sound?
confess, I also only saw it from the outside when I did this property survey. My observations from the outside are, as you indicated, it's in poor repair, and by casual observation, I would even offer, unfortunately, that, when you get closer to it, there's a bit of an odor. So that's usually indicative of what might be happening inside. And I think the applicant indicated that there is a adverse condition in play in the interior.
It looks like he was about to address the question, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he may be better suited to address the interior, because I haven't gone in.
I have been in the house. Yes, the inside is in a pretty bad state. There's not a room that is salvageable. Basically, it would have to be completely gutted to the structure. And at that point, in the basement, it's a stone foundation. There's a lot of water infiltration downstairs. There's a lot of mold downstairs. So it would be quite an undertaking to salvage the structure. And frankly, compared to 119, which is a home that we also own, we're not, all we're doing to that house, that's a beautiful home. And we are going to be renovating it and cleaning it and fixing that one up. And we're not doing anything to take away from that house. But 115 is a completely different animal in that regard.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that?
Yeah, please, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that, because as we all know, this is a historic district, and this is a contributing building to the historic district. And unless you had something dire or, a real structural engineer's report, it'd be very hard for me to vote for a lot line that went right through a historic building that contributes to a historic district. But understanding what you've described, it is different from your other building. It makes a lot of sense, but it's something we all have to be aware of, as we bit by bit
Sure.
demolish, all these buildings that make a district, then you no longer have a district.
Yeah, and I would fully agree with you. We were talking about 119, I think I'd have a hard case to try and say that house needs to come down, because it doesn't. It's absolutely beautiful inside as well.
Right.
But 115,
Yeah, it sounds pretty
unfortunately,
dire.
yeah.
And normally, I do this for a living, I'd want a structural engineer's report, but you're pretty convincing.
Oh, thank you.
Is there any way to either utilize any of what's there, or when the house gets built, to try to keep to at least the aesthetics of what was there? Try to maintain some semblance of what it is, even though it's completely disrepair?
In that structure, no, unfortunately, because in a lot of, we've done a lot of projects in Summit. I've built a lot of homes in Summit. I actually brought some pictures of houses that we've built in case the board wants to see any of them. And in Madison, Chatham, Milburn, Florham Park, so we've been building all around these towns for, since 2009. And prior to that, I've been building for 26 years. And in order to keep any part of that house, you need to keep the foundation. And unfortunately, in this case, the foundation is an old stone foundation, so it's, you know, you could probably take it apart with a lump, with a sledgehammer. It's not even like you'll have to use an excavator to take apart the foundation. So, as we all know, if you don't have a good foundation, you don't have anything. So you can't repair something on top of it. So that's the worst part about it. Because in other cases, yes, we would honestly would prefer to be able to keep a structure and do an addition or a renovation to it, and because of course it's a lot less expensive on our end than it is to completely demolish and get rid of an entire structure, including its foundation, and start from scratch. If this home were like 119, we'd be having a different conversation. We would be joining lot lines and making 2 separate lots instead of trying to make 3 if we were able to keep 115.
I think it's a good question, and just for the record, you can restore stone foundations. If it's
You
not
can.
a dire situation, you can even move frame buildings, aren't very heavy, lots of them have been moved on, put onto new foundations. There are a lot of things that can be done.
Yeah.
It just seems as though in this particular case, the facts and circumstances of this case, it seems as though it's
Beyond salvage.
It's beyond
It's in very bad, dire situation, so.
John, Mr. Zucker.
I just had a question to follow up. Did you just mention that you're talking about 3? Because I noticed there's 3 signs out saying coming soon, 3 different.
Well, there's 119, 117, and 115 are the 3.
So are you subdividing?
No.
The new lot 12 again? Like, what's happening?
No, Matt can clarify that.
It's not part of this subdivision. Joining the subdivision, but not part of the subdivision. So the
So-
lot to the left.
On
So
our,
you can do the mic, everyone, because the people at
sorry,
home.
so on the plans here, you see next to yours, to the south is lot 14 and to the north is lots 9 and 11. Are you talking about something else? Do you own those?
Well, my client owns property 119, but that's not subject to this application.
Lot
14.
14.
Lot
Lot
14.
They
Oh,
own lot
to the
14.
south, okay.
Separate,
Separate, okay, all right.
separate.
So we really own 3 lots, and they're ultimately going to keep one of that brick Georgian, and then maybe with the 115 gets removed or demolished, and then there's another lot that's perfectly conforming that you're going to either build a new home on or improve that in some way. So it's a total of 3, but we're only dealing with lot line in this case.
That's correct. only
I'm sorry, so
talking
the
about two.
the Georgian is sitting on 14?
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, now I get it.
Is that clear to everybody? Everybody understand that? Okay. Yep. Any other questions from?
The only
Another
other-
point of clarity, though,
Yes.
that if you have a barn, and it's in a historic district in particular, if you have a barn that's already there, it's grandfathered in. You don't have to demolish it because it's no longer conforming. I just want everybody to know that. You could keep it as is and restore it and enjoy it. You don't have to demolish it because it's non-conforming for our current zoning, because when it was built, it was conforming.
Right on the property line at the back, yeah. So that's, you could do it, my view of driving by, it looked like it was pretty rugged, the barn itself. I don't know, you can tell us a little bit about the condition of the barn. We said there was a lot of things in it, but what is the condition of the structure itself?
Dilapidated.
But I'm in New York today, and the other house is talking about.
Well, I can swear them in if they'd like to
All
testify,
right,
Mr. Chairman.
yeah. Would you like to come forward and say anything?
No, I'm just, in his
No, it's
defense, what he's
okay.
saying is absolutely true, as far as the yellow house and as far as the barn.
Okay,
And he's absolutely right. It was, for 20 years, nobody did anything.
all right, well, thank you for that. We can't put that on the record, but thank you. Any questions, other
Chairman?
questions from the board members? Yeah,
One other
Chris, yeah.
observation, being the neighbor around the corner, I walk by almost every day by the properties, and everything you've said resonates for me. The one thing I've noted is that the door to that yellow house has been left open several times for multiple days. I called the local Summit Police, and I think they attempted to secure it. But I do worry about the kids in the neighborhood who potentially, the trampoline's there, the house door has been left open frequently, the workers came and left a lot of debris,
glass,
which is
windows,
elevated, could fall on somebody. So I think the next step that you outlined makes sense. But securing the property, just because you have a lot of teenage kids in the neighborhood,
And unfortunately so we did close before, we closed in October, because on Halloween, kids broke into the house.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what they were doing, I don't think they did anything, so we actually went there, and, so somebody must have kicked the front door in again, because it was actually
Yeah.
screwed shut.
Yeah.
So we'll go there and we'll put boards across it and whatever windows and I mean, I didn't want to plywood all the windows up and make it look like I think that'd be worse than, but we'll do whatever you suggest.
It also would be wise that it sounds like there are people that are working on the site, that regular visits from someone like yourself who can observe the work and understand that at the time of completion, that the site is left in a clean state, that would be appreciated.
Okay.
It's also important to note, to Ms. Bolson-Alvarez's point, is that these houses do ultimately lose their viability, which is why code enforcement exists. So again, to the public, if you live in a neighborhood where there's an historic home and you do feel that there are maintenance issues, obviously we are observing property from the street, we don't enter the property. So to some degree, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we also don't want to see houses get to the point where we're sitting at a planning board talking about it being demolished. And those are the things that we can do today to avoid that, to getting there in the future. So if you could visit that regularly, and again, get in touch with us, we'll make sure that we're on the same page about its maintenance.
Thanks, Matthew, that's good.
I'm very interested with a particular emphasis on safety. I think aesthetics are important, but as I think Matt just addressed, I think as we all sit here, I think we all surely share that view that safety is probably the most critical element of your maintenance.
Any other members of the board with questions? So at this point, members of the public, if they'd like to come forward and have any comments on the project, any thoughts or ideas, please come forward and.
Mr. Chair, I think Mr. Bell had a question.
Oh, sorry, I missed you, Rick, sorry.
Yeah, it's maybe more of a comment than a question. Often to both reduce the cost of removals and for environmental reasons, take advantage of materials that were left on site after demolition. Often there's a strategy of reusing materials, particularly things that have value, like stone foundation. Is there any thought to keeping some of the materials, particularly the stone foundation, as site elements on site, or is everything going to be removed? And follow-up question, when is demolition occurring?
Demolition's going to occur, we can't do demo until whether this matter is approved, and because we can't submit for demolition permits until this is resolved. Yes, and we've actually done that quite often in other homes. Like we did a home on 22 Garden Road that was an existing house where we had, I can't remember the name of the company, it just came out of my head. But it was a company that will come in and they'll take the oak floors out, they'll take the windows, and they'll use whatever's good. Unfortunately, in the interior of this house, that's not the case. The stone foundation, yes, a lot of the times actually what we do is when we pull it out, we keep it to the side and we do landscaping with it, and we do things like that. We've done it a lot actually with stone foundations whenever we pulled them out. So yes, that's definitely something that we do.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, for me, since we're hearing a stipulation, maybe we could refine that stipulation. I'm wondering if the applicant is agreeing to
So how
make
would
good
you,
faith efforts to retain stone and/or other structural elements, and with the idea that this would foster the historic preservation of this site.
If anything is salvageable, certainly.
Within reason, subject to the review and approval, there has to be a standard, and there has to be someone who ensures that it abides by the standard. I don't know if that would be our planner.
Yeah,
Walked
Joe
in his.
seems to have a comment there,
Joe
yeah.
has a comment.
Well, the design standards of the ordinance, I think you should take a look at, in the zoning ordinance in appendix, I think it's A, thank you. There's a whole series of standards regarding scale and massing and proportion and height, window treatments that should reflect the surrounding established pattern of development.
Absolutely. Actually, Elizabeth Rush, I don't know how many of you are familiar with her. She's a local architect. She actually prepared if I may, some sketches of what we're.
Do we have to read those?
Say two.
Yeah.
Exhibit A2, and If I may, what, sir, you have to speak in the microphone
Yes.
for the
All right.
record.
All right,
The,
so let's see. Yeah, thanks. So we'll label these as exhibit,
And can you identify Exhibit A2 so we have it on the record
yeah,
what
this
it
is
is?
a front elevation, 115 Oak Ridge Avenue. And then it looks like we've got some sketches here of 115, the brick, I got this right, the Georgian? And this is the other site. So this is, can you tell us the address again?
Well, those are just three concepts
Yeah,
of.
concept, yeah, but
Okay, so if I may, Mr. Chairman, then, A2 is what, sir?
elevations.
Elevations?
concepts,
Just three concepts
yeah,
of
potential concepts.
homes that we feel suit the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay, bear with me, please, for the
Yes.
record. The one in your left hand, Mr. Chairman?
That is an
Can
elevation.
the witness identify that for us?
That is one of those three elevations. I don't remember, maybe the
One of
chairman can
three
tell me which one it
elevations.
The
is.
one in the middle.
The one in the middle. It's just a color version of the same one that's in the middle, just kind of enlarged a little bit.
Yeah, I will, yeah. Just once we
Okay,
get
and
them
then
labeled.
A3 is all
Yeah.
three concept elevations,
Yeah.
is that correct, sir?
Correct.
Thank you.
Different
So that
concepts.
when we have a resolution, it can accurately reflect the exhibits that were provided.
Yeah.
And so the court reporter can accurately reflect what the exhibits are.
To be clear, their concepts, we're not holding the, to the specific
Exactly, because they'll have to be
elevation.
designed to fit the lot size but those are just three concepts of what we're proposing.
All right. Well, I won't comment
Although we
on
only
them.
need two.
We'll comment on the particular, but they look nice to me.
I have a process question.
Let's pass
Can you
them
indulge me
down.
while we're passing them around?
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes, you have another question?
I remember in the past when we've had proposals for lot line changes or splitting a bigger lot, and we typically got designs for both buildings and the landscape plans and the setbacks and all of that all at once when we got the lot line submission. And I'm wondering, maybe I should ask Mr. Burgess, what's the process and why sometimes do we get all of that detail that we can talk about and in conjunction with the lot line change, and this time it's just the lot line change, even though we know that development's imminent?
Whenever there's a variance associated with one of the lots you're talking about, the applicant could be required to submit all that additional detail. In this instance, we have two completely conforming lots. That's not to say we can't have the discussion like we're having now. And again, that Appendix A gives the board a lot of flexibility when they're analyzing these future applications. Which brings up a question now. If they file separately for each lot, it would not come to the full board unless we make that a stipulation now.
When you say if they file separately for the grading plans for the two lots?
Grading plan or the building plan, they would just go to the building department, I assume.
Right, but what I'm wondering, Mr. Burgess, is why would they be coming, if it's fully conforming, why would they be coming before the board? At that point, it's not a site plan.
So that's what I'm saying, they would not.
Right.
So we're talking as if they were gonna come back to the board, showing the board something. But when they file for each individual lot separately, they just go to the building department. They will not be coming to the full.
Correct, correct.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that.
I don't think they're representing that they are doing anything other than that, if I'm correct.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
I agree, though. I think that it actually helps us having more information and less, because if, just say, I'm not saying that you would do this, but come here, get approval for the lot line, then, as you talk with your plan, you then want a variance for 17 different things with the zoning board, right? That, if we had known that that was then gonna be on this lot, it may have impacted our decision.
Yeah.
Right? It's just,
Sure.
and I agree, like, we had that one application a couple months ago where the cut-through one, where we didn't have all the information, we didn't have, they talked about a potential dwelling they were gonna put on there, they didn't have any of the plans, and we asked them to go back and finalize those plans and then come back to us. So I just, not, to her point of what the process is, I think it's more helpful when we have a fuller description of what the ultimate dwelling is gonna look like, or whatever we're doing, but.
Just to play devil's advocate, I think that would be pretty foolish of an applicant to do to get your approval on a subdivision and then come to you at a later date with variances for that same property and to mislead you on what we were proposing to put up. I wouldn't expect to get those variances then.
Well, it is a separate board though, and that board on its own merits in the case could agree with the variance. So, yeah,
Yeah.
Mr. Stern's point is possible.
It
that
is.
You could still, in the design process, have a buyer who wants a little extra of this or that and encourages the builder to do the bigger patio, to do something that would cause a variance. That may have influenced the decision of the board, so it is possible.
I have a follow-up
Yes,
question
sure.
on the site work. The elevations are charming. Elizabeth Rush is a great architect, and the house, as shown in the sketch, certainly looks at first glance to be consistent in elevation to other houses in Summit and in the neighborhood. That said, opening the door to that discussion, there's no plan that shows the scale and size of the house. Would you characterize it as the intent as being consistent volumetrically with other houses on the block, in the neighborhood, in the area? It doesn't show how deep it goes into the lot. It's a large lot.
Absolutely. And of course, we're confined to what you can legally put on the lot.
Right. It's a large lot. Is it a McMansion or not, is my question.
No, I don't think I would characterize it
Good.
as a McMansion. I think it would be basically, you know.
It doesn't look like it
same
on the
property.
street, but I don't know how deep it is.
Yeah. I think it'll be, conform, basically what the neighborhood calls for.
Yeah, it's not a stipulation. It's just a
No, no, no,
question.
I guess my only question for Steve perhaps is, if the creation of the lot line creates two conforming lots, does the planning board have authority to step into, where no variance is created, a design component to what could be built there? Authority-wise,
Yeah. The planning board has limited authority when it's a fully conforming minor subdivision, particularly in the context of eliminating a minimum of 4 existing nonconformities with respect to the lot area, lot width of the 2 lots. That said, it's a historic zone. So while we have no variance relief being sought here, it's a historic district, excuse me. It's a contributing structure, the existing structure, albeit in an alleged dilapidated state. So certainly the board has authority in that context to have stipulations such as the one I believe we got, which is that it would be not only consistent with the design standards as anything would have to be, it would have to be consistent with the bulk standards, or else there's zoning board of adjustment variance relief that would be opened up, but also that that it be architecturally consistent with the historic district in the neighborhood, and also a good faith effort, as the board elicited from the applicant, a good faith effort to utilize within reason contributing stone and/or other elements that would be renovated, so to speak, from the site and help in the fact that it's a contributing structure. So a long answer, it's not a yes or a no, but you have some authority there.
We have a series of stipulations that have given us some comfort with regard to the question that's been asked.
And there may even be more stipulations, because one thing I don't want to lose sight of, Mr. Chairman, is there were a few reports with some questions and conditions.
Yeah.
And unless the applicant is stipulating to all the conditions set forth in all the reports, makes it a little easier, but there may be some information that actually called for further
Well, we'd like-
testimony in those reports.
I'd like to have if the board is finished, have a board professionals go through their comments as well. Any other comments from the board, or can we have Joe and Dipti go over their comments?
I think there's one other gentleman here.
Yes. So we're not in the public comment period yet.
No, I guess we're still asking questions.
So we're still asking questions of the owner in terms
Either
of his
witness.
testimony?
Either witness.
Yeah, okay, sorry. If you have questions of either witness, you can ask them of those witnesses. If not, shortly after we conclude our questions and the board questions, the public has the option to come forward and speak about their thoughts on the project.
Well, I'm not sure. I have a question about the survey.
I would think that you would ask
Now would be
Mr.
the
Clark,
time.
Mr. Clark that question, yes.
So I say my
And
name?
state your name and address, please. Yeah, thanks.
Ricardo Riepi, R-I-E-P-P-I, 126 Mountain Avenue.
Okay.
I live in block 4606, lot 2, so I'm directly behind all three of these lots.
Okay, thanks.
And I went to to see the records, and on the survey, it doesn't say there's a fence, but there actually is a fence along the property, and I believe it's on their side of the property. And I have a survey done, I think, by the same company that did this one, ABC. So it's not clear to me whose fence it is. I was told it was not our fence, it was their fence. I have pictures of the fence. As you can imagine, it's also very dilapidated, so that's kind of the concern I have about what can be done about that.
Yes, Mr. Clark, or did you have a comment on
December
that?
of '22, doesn't have the fence.
Yeah.
It's from
Mr.
December of '22, and it doesn't have the fence.
I have pictures of
Yeah.
yesterday, and there's definitely a fence there.
Mr. Chairman, if
But
it
there's
helps,
also a fence on the other survey.
I can swear him in. He
Yeah,
can
please.
use the exhibits as he questions Mr. Clark
This
and
is
or...
lot
There's
two,
a
is
fence
that
there
correct?
on his survey,
Me,
but it's
I
not
am
showing.
in lot 2.
On this
Yeah,
one.
directly
Yeah.
behind.
Yep,
It's
Sorry, I
showing
lost track of
here.
where.
It's showing doesn't
four,
have the
4606, lot two.
behind the garage.
Yeah, okay, yes, please,
Sir, one more time, can you spell your last name?
R-I-E-P-P-I.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. And you had some exhibits or a survey you wanted to show the board? Or show the witness?
Well, these are just current pictures of of now, and showing where the fence is.
Sir, how many?
How many pictures?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pictures.
Okay, so Exhibit 01 is 8 pictures from, is it Google Earth? What is it from?
No, it's my camera.
Oh, for your camera, great. Okay, and you took these photos when?
Myself, yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay, and they're an accurate depiction of what presently exists, one day older?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And your
And-
question to
Sorry,
Ms.
one more thing.
Oh,
I have
okay.
a survey that was done on my property. It's smaller, obviously, but.
So
it does-
Exhibit 02 is a survey you had done on your property, Lot 2. What's the date of that?
Well, we closed December 2020, 21.
December 21?
Well, we-
Okay, it
we
doesn't
just-
have the date on it?
No, I mean, this is a
Okay,
photocopy.
that's fine.
but
And do
we
you know who
moved
did
it,
the survey?
uh,
Mr. Clark? Okay.
I think he did,
We have an interested witness,
but
okay.
there's another thing to it. He did the
The-
survey, and then he didn't put in the stakes.
No stakes, okay.
Until the day he did the survey for.
Okay, now your question of Mr. Clark is,
In the current
is there a
survey-
fence and whose is
I
it?
understood him to ask
Yeah.
whose fence is it and
Right.
what will be done about it.
That's what I understood.
is that your question?
Yeah, well,
That's your question?
Yeah.
I don't ever know whose fences are whose in most cases. It's sometimes difficult to ascertain, especially when it's very irregular, dilapidated, falling down, what have you. Sometimes if it's a stockade fence and the fabric's facing out, I can reasonably ascertain whose fence it is, but under other circumstances, it's hard for me to know. What I generally know is what side of the boundary it's on, but even sometimes that's difficult if the fence is highly irregular and falling down or, variable, let's say. All that said, if it's not a fence that you're excited about or interested in maintaining it, I am sure that it can be demolished as part of the process for the development of, these 2 lots and the lot that's already entering into a permitting process, Lot 14, which, really Lot 13 and 14 are the main ones that adjoin your lot. But, the part of that is like I didn't find all of it when I did your survey, but after the leaves were down and when I was doing the subsequent survey, there's almost like a curb line that's along the boundary, and that fence, part of it at least, I think, sits within that, essentially.
Right, it sits right on it.
Right, right. So, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that could be removed and a new fence installed, if that's, part of the plan that typically is. to be removed. You know,
Okay.
so if it's not something that you
No, I-
feel an attachment to, or,
No, not at all.
That's why it's here.
I mean, there's like,
Yeah, yeah.
animals go right through it because there's holes.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I see
I
a
just
lot of
wasn't sure
those.
if it was
yeah.
our fence or your fence or.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah,
I don't know if
and
it's
I
mine or
can't say
yours,
either.
and, you know, you and I can talk and
Okay.
figure that out.
Because there's a little curb. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen it.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
down
Okay.
flush with the
It
ground.
was, it was
almost.
hard to see any of that until we cleared all
Yeah.
that stuff that was there.
The other,
And the point about code enforcement is that if a fence is dilapidated, we have to understand whose fence it is.
Yeah.
In order to be able to then cite them for an issue. So if you guys could work that out, that would certainly resolve that issue, without having to figure out whose fence it is. If the builder's saying that they'd be willing to incur the cost of demolishing that fence, and you're in agreement that that would be what you've come
Well, I
here
don't,
to ask
like you
about.
just said, I don't know whose fence it is, so I figured we would discuss that and, you know,
Work that out.
see what kind of fence we want to put up, and, you know, we'll kind of work that out, I guess, on our own, between the two of us. We'll exchange information and
okay.
We'll
But I
figure
thought
that
the
out.
survey was supposed to determine whose fence it is, where the property falls. No?
Yeah, it's
Well,
not
it
outside.
it does, but you know, fences are not all the same. So if the fence is wandering here and there, you know, by inches or feet, unless I survey every single post and categorize the fabric, sometimes they're leaning, so, you know, where is it that it's over the line? I mean, I have to locate something, and if it's
Okay.
difficult to locate, then it's difficult to locate.
Okay.
And I've found that the more dilapidated and older a fence is, the more no one claims ownership for it. It's like, well, like trees that are on the boundary.
So, the result is that you two will talk, and if you want the fence gone, the builder will take it?
yeah, I mean, if you look at these photos, it's not even much of a fence, it's more like chicken wire.
Yeah, well, I'd like to keep something, but I'm just saying, I don't know whose responsibility it is, and so it'd be, I don't know who to go to. And if we have a survey, it's not clear on whose fence it is.
It sounds in this case, though, that one of the property owners is taking ownership of it and
Right.
is willing to put forward the funds to demolish it.
Ah.
So while, yes, a survey, according to this professional, is challenging about who owns it, it sounds like neighbor to neighbor, one is willing to take responsibility of the cost of demolishing it. And
Yeah, I
then-
have no problem getting rid of it.
And then a new fence that were to be put up would then clearly be put on the appropriate boundary. So if they were to choose to put a fence up, they would clearly then, based on the survey, put it in an appropriate and conforming place.
Okay. All right, well,
Which would be on their lot.
Which should be
Yeah,
on
I
their
think,
lot,
you know,
correct. And there would
I
be
have no problem
question.
saying that we'll get rid of it.
Yeah.
You know, I'll have our crews
Well,
get rid of it, and
we
then
have
you
the
and I
con-
can talk about what kind of fence we both would like to see there,
That's
and
fine.
I think we have the stipulation from the applicant, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I think we might need to
Yeah,
wait a moment or
Mr.
two
Bell,
because
yeah,
we may have
Mr.
lost a board member
Yeah.
temporarily.
And then how are we doing, we'll give Iris a break here if we go on much longer. I don't think we have much more to talk about.
I think
We do want to get the professionals' response. I think maybe the board questions are finished, but we'd like to get the professionals'
Right,
response when Rick comes back.
Technically, we lost a board member. It's okay, we have enough members to take his position in deliberating and voting if he's
Yeah, I'd
missing
like to
part of the
have
hearing.
him Listen to it, so.
Can I ask Mr. Burgess a question while we're waiting?
Yes, sir.
Is it appropriate, and can we, in our conditions of approval,
Jennifer,
add?
if we're waiting for Rick, we should probably wait for
Oh,
Rick.
okay.
Either we do or we don't, so I guess that's the question. Maybe, Iris, could you use a 5-minute break? Would that be helpful? Why don't we just take a 5-minute break, when Rick comes back, we'll then regroup and we'll hear from our professionals unless there's, well, after your question. Jennifer,
No,
if there's
I'll
any
wait,
others,
I'll wait,
let's hear
that's fine.
from our professionals.
I misunderstood.
Okay, thanks.
today I was
Oh, is that coming? Interesting.
That's coming up in 10 days, that competition.
You guys, thank you very much. Should we go on?
She doesn't know.
Does he say?
reconvene after a 5-minute break there, and Ms. Paulson Alvarez had a question she wanted to ask.
Yeah. I wondered, since the applicant shared that he's going to do 2 buildings that meet code and won't need variances, whether we could make that a condition of approval or not. How do you feel about doing that?
I'm sorry, what would you make the condition of approval?
That it wouldn't be, that he'd be building 2 houses that didn't require variances for massing,
I think
site.
Yeah, I think the municipal land use will always give someone the right to ask for
Okay,
relief.
that's why I'm asking you,
But
Mr. Burgess.
It might be prudent to have in the resolution adherence to the extent possible, if you have to frame
Okay.
it that way, with Appendix A.
Yeah,
Because that's really what
referencing
gives the
Appendix A.
board, whether it's this board, the zoning board on a variance, or just the building building department, an understanding to make sure you look at this document.
Right, right. Reference Appendix A. This is the design guidelines appendix that talks about massing and scale and materials and making sure that it's in keeping with the historic district and the neighborhood, basically. Okay, great. Thank you for asking.
Now, from the applicant's perspective, is that something you want to stipulate to? I think it's almost required anyway, given that it's part of the ordinance,
Yes.
you know?
I would submit, that's correct, Mr. Chairman, yes.
Okay. All right. Great, thanks. 2 more questions from the board, and we want to hear from our board professionals, but I guess, is there another member of the audience that has a question with regard to one of the folks that testified? Okay, please come forward and state your name and address. We're a little out of order here, but it's okay.
Thank you. Hi, Jacob Dowden, D-O-W-D-E-N. I'm at 120 Mountain Avenue. My property is directly behind, is it 115, the yellow house? So my property's directly behind 115 Oak Ridge. I actually have 2 questions, but they're related, and maybe this is the right place for it, maybe not, but do my best here. So, during the demolition of the house, which I'm very happy you're going to do, but my biggest concern is there have been issues with rodents for years, just in and around the properties, getting into the other properties, rats, mice, raccoons, things like that. When the demolition happens, I imagine all of those guys are going to scurry to the surrounding properties. Is there anything that we can do to ensure that there's some sort of mitigation during the construction period and during the, the period of demolition?
Isn't that required?
It is required.
Yeah.
It's part of a demolition permit that
Okay.
you put traps there, but you can tell us
We
more
actually
about
go
it.
a step further. We just published this, believe it or not, but on the city's website, there's a demolition checklist you can download in the DCS Document Center. One of the items is abatement within 2 weeks of application. You actually can't put bait out and then wait 6 months to demolish the house. So we actually ask that you do it within a very brief time period between when you're going to demolish and when you've baited. So that is one of the stipulations of demolition.
Okay, so can I ask the follow-up question? So the follow-up question is, there's, thankfully, my property is not affected by this, but I know Ricardo's property is and our other neighbors is as well. There's issues with drainage and runoff and a lot of flooding in basements for our neighbors. When the new properties, well, how do we get comfortable as neighbors that the drainage won't be affected by any demolition or future construction now that we're going from 2 properties to 3 houses? And is there anything that can be done that the planning board can stipulate to ensure that our properties aren't negatively impacted from a drainage perspective?
That's an Andrew question.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you that the rules in Summit are well established to do exactly that, to control stormwater runoff and make sure that there are no negative impacts resulting from development. In this case, what will happen is, as part of the grading plan process, the engineering office will review anything that's submitted, and there will be stormwater management required as part of the project, which would entail typically full capture of the entire roof area in a dry well system, that's managed and infiltrated back into the ground. In this case, it may go beyond that because, particularly in the one lot, there isn't much existing lot coverage. And so the way this works is you look at what the existing impervious surfaces are on a property, and then anything new you add has to be managed. So in this case, in many cases, when you have an existing house, a driveway, and all the other appurtenances, there's an existing stormwater condition and an existing coverage condition. And then when you do something new, you have to look at what the difference is between that to make sure you're not increasing any kind of runoff that might happen. In this case, since there isn't much of an existing profile for impervious coverage, there'll be a lot more stormwater management required because most of the new coverage will be brand new to the property.
So
Does that make sense?
if I hear that correctly, what it boils down to is theoretically,
Can you just use the microphone, sir? Sorry.
theoretically, what you're saying is the neighbors should actually benefit from the construction that'll be done on these properties.
Yeah, I mean, there are sometimes conditions during construction that are not as favorable because it's much harder to control during construction. So a lot of people get distressed when there's some things that aren't perfect during the construction process without waiting to the end product when, you know, the house is in place, the stormwater management systems are in place, and all the final landscaping is installed. But in the final analysis, in the final product, yes, I expect there'll be an improvement. In this case,
Okay.
probably a marked improvement.
I would imagine, though, there are things that can be done during the construction
Yeah,
process to
there are.
manage that, to like
There
block
are,
runoff and things like that.
but things do happen sometimes during construction. If you get an Irene that hits and you got an open site that's, you know, not fully landscaped and the drywalls aren't installed and the root water isn't being captured, you're gonna have a different effect, you know, and sometimes the silt fence blows out or things like that can happen. Obviously, work is done all the time to make sure that's not happening.
Okay. Last question, might be for you.
We'll see.
It should be incredibly easy, it's probably an obvious one. I just wanted to confirm that the 3 lots in question here, I know there are 2 lots in question for the variance, but there are 3 lots that you own, that there's a stipulation or there's part of the rules that only single-family homes can go on these lots.
That's all that's permitted in the zone.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm.
That's
Thank you.
inherent, yeah.
So we can, hearing no comments, other comments or questions from the board, Joe and Dipty, you can run us through your comments. Yeah, sure, Joe.
Actually, all the comments that were in my report somehow got spoken about during this conversation. The only outstanding item, and I don't think we could get an answer, is the timing and extent of the demolition.
Guys,
I think,
because we're taking recording,
I think the discussion was that the entire all the structures are coming down, and the timing of it, we won't know quite yet. But that was the only outstanding item from my memo.
so we know that one is coming down, and one is being preserved, and then a total of 3 homes. That's what we know at this point. Anything else, Joe, that,
Now, everything else is talked about.
Dipty, in regard to your comments?
Everything has been covered from the conversations we've had here. That was included in our report.
All right, so at this point, we can have members of the public come forward if you'd like and have any comments relative to this application.
I was just wondering what the time was.
Go for it, sorry. We can't, because we have to record it all.
Yeah, no problem. Megan Burke, MEAGAN BURKE, 157 Oak Ridge Avenue. I'm just wondering what the timeline
I'm sorry,
would be.
ma'am,
We're on-
can I swear you in?
Oh, sorry.
It's a quasi judicial proceeding,
Yeah,
thanks.
no worries.
If you could raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear to God or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please speak into the microphone so she can get
I'm just
everything.
wondering what the timeline will be of the 3 properties? Are you planning on building the 2 houses first and then renovating the brick building, or?
The red 119, which is the house that's not part of this discussion really, is we're already in the process of getting permits.
Okay.
We're waiting for Elizabeth to finalize the construction drawings. So those are, we basically have a plan and drawings for that house already. So the plan is, of course, from a business.
Are you expanding back to that house, or?
Yeah, we're
You're
doing
adding another hole? Yeah,
just to the
okay.
back.
Yeah, okay.
So from the street, it's gonna look exactly the
Exactly
same,
right.
just a lot cleaner and
Yeah,
nicer.
oh, sure.
The plan is to do all three at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So not to drag this process out,
Right.
because of course, even from a business standpoint, you know,
Sure.
I'm paying a lot of property taxes for it to sit there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, time is going to be as we get permits. You saw the concepts of what we want to build there. The plans aren't finalized for those because we don't know whether we were gonna be granted this subdivision. So obviously, we're not gonna spend all the money on architectural plans until we know that we're gonna be able to. And then Andrew will let the architect know exactly what the footprint, the setbacks and all that stuff, and the house will be designed based on that information. And of course, everything will be as expeditiously as possible. We're hoping to have all three, 119 will be done pretty quickly, probably by the end of the summer.
Oh, okay.
The other two new houses, we're hoping to be done around this time next year.
Okay. And then I have one other question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for this gentleman.
Okay.
Our street is definitely known for stone underneath the ground where they have to drill or, and.
A lot of summits.
Yeah, so do you anticipate anything like that, or you won't know until you get into?
Well, as you've observed, I've seen the same thing, and I think it's something that you have to expect a certain amount of.
No, exactly.
It's difficult to know until you start digging how much and where. You know, I've had some projects on Colt Road that they got rid of half the basement because they got tired of banging on rock, you know.
Oh, yeah, not fun.
This property didn't give me that
Yeah.
general impression,
Right.
you know, on the time I spent on the property, but we'll know once we start doing the demo and dig a couple of holes, you'll be able to tell pretty quickly. So it's hard to tell right now.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, thank you.
All right, any more members of the public would like to come forward with questions or comments about the application? Okay. I think we're ready, Mr. Warner, to close the hearing at this point and go to a vote, perhaps a discussion among the board's members first. Would you like to go over the stipulations?
Sure,
Brian?
happy to do so.
Yeah.
As if we're closing the hearing,
Yeah. The hearing is closed, yeah.
the board's considering a fully conforming minor subdivision lot line adjustment with no variance relief, hence it's fully conforming. The stipulated two conditions include all those set forth in the various reports of the professionals, including our engineer, our planner, our zoning officer, and the Historic Preservation Commission. We also, to name a few, subject, of course, to compliance with all maintenance code provisions, as would be the law anyway. Requirement, of course, for grading, building, architectural, and landscape plans to be submitted post-approval. Bear with me. Property code. The applicant will abide by the design standards in Appendix A. The exterior of the dwellings will be consistent with the neighborhood as well as the historic district, and there would be a good faith effort within reason to retain and reutilize the stone and/or other elements of the structure for purposes of historic preservation and recognition of the fact that the structure on the subject lot contributes to the historic district. And there was a stipulation to remove the existing fence, and obviously any new fence that is constructed by the applicant will be required to be on the applicant's property and comply with all fence requirements. And I believe that is all we have.
Mr. Warner, could I just have clarity on the stipulation you mentioned regarding historic preservation? The comments that were raised mentioned not removing the structure. I just wanted clarity that the structure.
Oh, okay, no, yeah, that was a recommendation by
Mr. Bell.
the Historic Preservation Commission. Obviously, if the board is granting the lot line adjustment, I assume the board is not prohibiting you from removing the dwelling that was testified to as being in need of demolition.
The point I think that Rick was trying to make was that those materials could be used perhaps on the site at post-demolition or even prior to demolition if there was fireplace mantles or whatever that were salvageable. They could be used in the future building, and in this case, you mentioned perhaps rubble from the rock from the foundation could be used in landscaping, but that would be the effort that we're
You're
trying to
not
make.
disputing that stipulation, you
Yeah.
just,
Just
when I spoke
clarifying.
about the Historic Preservation Commission being a report you had to abide by, you're correct. There's a provision in there that says you can't demolish the structure. Obviously, that's not
Yeah.
something that the board would require.
No,
Just wanted
that's-
clarification.
Okay, sure.
I think from the Historic Preservation Commission standpoint, it's more about something consistent with the rendering that was shown to us, and that the massing scale materials would be similar to the historic neighborhood. And that's why we're referencing Appendix A. With regard to the stone, I think that was more an Environmental Commission suggestion, utilizing it on the site, fine with me. Lessen the landfills, love it.
Yep. Okay, good. I think we've got it cleared up, everybody. Thanks. All right. So we need to go to a vote at this point. Is someone make a motion with regard to this application?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve.
All right. All right, John, and a second?
Second?
All right, second. Sorry, Ellen. Thank you, though. Thanks. All right, and so we need to go to a roll call vote.
Sure. Chairman Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Ms. Balson Alvarez,
Yes.
Ms. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Councilmember Miniger,
Yes.
Vice Chair Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Formicelli,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Kopelecchia, Mr. Clark, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. So we have just two more pieces of work to do as a board before we adjourn. Shouldn't take long. We have a resolution with regard to, let's wait for these folks to clear out here. And I don't think we need our board professionals at this point, so they can go. Thank you very much. Joe?
Thank you.
Deputy, thank you very much.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Safe travels.
Yep, thank you all.
I see it.
Yes.
Take care, Joe. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good. So Andrew, not that this matters, but I grew up at 50 Oak Ridge, so not far away.
Right up the road.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, so, all right, so we'll take a look at the resolution for 19, 23, and 27 Edgemont Avenue. Does anybody have any comments with regard to that resolution? The roughly 13 pages. And I thought it was very well written. As always, Steve, well written. Anybody have any comments or questions with regard to this resolution?
I agree, but it was tough to work through, so but yeah.
A
it's
lot of
great.
detail in this
A lot of
thing.
detail,
Yeah.
well done, Steve.
Yeah, it's a lot of detail.
Whoever wrote it, perhaps you wrote it.
Wait a minute now.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
That's right. Okay.
No, no comments.
All right. All right, great. Any more comments? So if hearing no comments or questions, can I have a motion to approve? And a second?
I'm sorry, just so I want to just track as Stephanie is as well. Who made the motion?
I don't think we did.
I didn't even
I'll
see.
make
We
it. I'll make
have
it.
Chairman
No, I think-
Anderson,
no,
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
I think Ellen
Mr.
was gonna
Delory.
make that motion.
You can say me.
Ellen was
Put it
gonna
in
make that
Ellen.
motion.
Yeah,
It's her
give it to
fault.
me.
Ellen made the motion and Jay seconded.
No, we're gonna have to, yeah, we have Chairman Anderson, Mr. Brinkerhoff, Mr. Delory, Mr. Zucker, and Mr. Stern are eligible to
Yeah,
vote.
because we were here during the hearing, yeah, so,
Okay,
sorry
so-
about that.
Oh, yes.
Please.
I'm sorry, can
Who was here?
can you repeat that again?
Sure. The Chairman Anderson, Mr. Brinkerhoff, Mr. Delory, Mr. Zucker, and Mr. Stern. I'm going from the minutes, so I'm assuming they're correct.
Okay, well, of course they
Oh,
are.
you were not here? Oh, perhaps that other guy sitting here.
Yeah, it was a little close, actually, at the last meeting. We dragged a couple of people in off the street. but
Yeah.
it was trashed. All right, so,
So
all
if
of
we
us
could, if we
that
could
are-
get a motion and a second from that group.
Okay, so,
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
great,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay.
Now we'll have a
I
vote.
know.
Okay. Chairman Anderson,
Yes?
Mr. Brinkerhoff,
Yes.
Mr. Delory,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Zucker,
Yes.
Mr. Stern.
Yes.
The motion carries.
All right, thank you. One last item here is our minutes from previous meeting, which were very good, Stephanie. They were clear and concise, and so that was very helpful. I didn't have any comments on those minutes, actually. And so, anybody else who was in attendance in that meeting have any comments or questions on the minutes?
No comments, and I'll move approval.
Okay,
While we're at it.
all right, Jay moves approval, we need a second. All right, for the people who were there, I need a second for the people that were there, thank you, Paul. And then I think in this case, we just do a voice vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay,
Extensions for everyone else.
yes, okay, yeah, abstentions for those who are not present. All right, so I think that's all we have to do. Our next meeting, as noted, Stephanie, in the agenda here is February 27th. So I think that's it for tonight. Thank you all for being here. We have full house, and it's just an interesting case in some ways. It's kind of a little different. So thanks for all the questions and comments. They were very, very good. So we'll adjourn the meeting, and we'll see you all next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.